Imagine a doctor looks at your test results. The software flags everything as normal, so the doctor moves on even though something looks slightly off. You go home. 3 months later, you're back with a serious diagnosis. The machine said you were fine. The doctor believed it. And that moment of trust may have cost you everything. This is called automation bias. It's the tendency to overtrust automated systems, even when those systems give us wrong or incomplete information. It's not laziness. It's not stupidity. It's a deeply human response to complexity, and it shows up everywhere, from hospitals to courtrooms to hiring offices. The term was first formally studied in aviation research during the 1990s. Pilots with autopilot systems were making fewer active decisions and sometimes failed to catch errors the system was making. Researchers discovered that the more we delegate to machines, the more we start treating their outputs as ground truth. Here's why it happens. Our brains are wired to conserve energy. Making judgment calls is mentally expensive. So when a system appears objective, numerical, and authoritative, our brain takes a shortcut. It says, the machine already did the hard work. I don't need to second guess it. That shortcut feels rational, but it isn't always. Daniel Kahneman's book, Thinking Fast and Slow, explains this beautifully. Our system one thinking is fast and instinctive. Our system two is slow and deliberate. Algorithms trigger system one. They feel like a clean answer. So we stop engaging system two, which is exactly where critical thinking lives. There's also a social element. If you override an algorithm and you turn out to be wrong, people blame you. If you follow the algorithm and it's wrong, the blame feels shared. So professionals often use automated systems as cover. It's not just bias, it's self-protection inside broken incentive structures. Let's get specific because this isn't abstract. Automation bias has measurable consequences in 3 fields where decisions change lives: medicine, criminal justice, and hiring. Each one shows a slightly different failure mode, and each one is worth understanding on its own terms. Start with medicine. Clinical decision support systems are now embedded in most hospital software. These tools flag drug interactions, suggest diagnoses, and highlight abnormal readings. In theory, they're a safety net. In practice, studies show that when these systems produce a recommendation, doctors often stop looking as hard at the raw data themselves. A study published in the journal Applied Ergonomics found that when an automated system gave incorrect advice, trained professionals accepted that incorrect advice a significant percentage of the time. They didn't catch the error, not because they were bad doctors, because the system had earned a kind of default trust that overrode their own instincts. There's also alert fatigue. Medical systems generate so many automated warnings that clinicians start dismissing them automatically. This is the flip side of automation bias. When the machine cries wolf too often, people tune it out completely. Both outcomes, overtrusting and undertrusting, come from the same root problem: poor human-machine calibration. Now, move to criminal justice. In the United States, several courts use risk assessment algorithms to help determine bail, sentencing, and parole decisions. The most well-known is COMPAS, Correctional Offender Management Profiling for Alternative Sanctions. It generates a recidivism score, a number predicting how likely someone is to reoffend. In 2016, ProPublica published an investigation showing that COMPAS was nearly twice as likely to falsely flag Black defendants as high risk compared to white defendants. The algorithm was wrong, and it was wrong in a racially unequal way. But judges were still using those scores because the number felt authoritative and the alternative felt subjective. This is automation bias at its most dangerous. A defendant's future gets shaped by a score produced by a black box system. The judge doesn't know exactly how it works. The defendant can't challenge it meaningfully, and the courtroom treats it as if it were objective science. It isn't. It's a model trained on historical data that already contains bias. The third domain is hiring, and this one touches millions of people directly. Companies now use applicant tracking systems and AI-powered resume screeners to filter candidates before a human ever reads a single application. These tools scan for keywords, score candidates, and rank them automatically. Most applicants never know why they were rejected. Amazon famously scrapped an AI recruiting tool in 2018 after discovering it was systematically downgrading resumes that included the word women, as in women's chess club. The system had been trained on a decade of hiring data, and that data reflected historical male-dominated hiring patterns. The algorithm learned to replicate the bias, not eliminate it. So, why do institutions keep using these tools even after failures become public? It comes down to three forces working together: efficiency pressure, accountability diffusion, and what you might call the myth of machine objectivity. Each one reinforces the others, and together they make automation bias very hard to fight institutionally. Efficiency pressure is obvious. Hospitals see hundreds of patients a day, recruiters handle thousands of applications, judges move through packed dockets, automated tools promise to handle volume that humans simply can't, and that promise is real. The problem is that speed and scale come with a hidden cost: less scrutiny per decision. Accountability diffusion is subtler. When a human makes a bad call, there's a clear face to the decision. But when an algorithm does, responsibility spreads across the vendor, the procurement team, the manager who approved it, and the person who clicked confirm. Nobody is clearly responsible. And that ambiguity is very comfortable for everyone involved. Then there's machine objectivity, the idea that data doesn't have an agenda. This is probably the most persistent myth in technology. All models are built by humans, trained on human-generated data, and optimized for goals that humans chose. Those choices embed assumptions, and those assumptions have consequences. The math looks neutral, the context never is. Kathy O'Neill's book, Weapons of Math Destruction, is the definitive read on this. She shows how high-stakes algorithms, the ones used in education, policing, credit, and insurance, tend to punish the most vulnerable people while creating the appearance of fairness. The algorithm doesn't discriminate on purpose. It discriminates systematically, which is actually worse. Here's where most videos on this topic stop. They explain the problem and leave you feeling helpless. But there are concrete things that individuals, organizations, and policymakers can do to reduce automation bias without throwing out the genuine benefits that these systems provide. At the individual level, the most powerful thing you can do is form your own judgment before you see the algorithm's output. Studies show that if you see the automated recommendation first, you anchor to it even if you disagree. But if you make an independent assessment first, you're far more likely to catch errors and hold your position. At the organizational level, the key is designing workflows that require active human engagement rather than passive approval. Don't just give someone an algorithm output and ask them to sign off. Make them document their own assessment. Create explicit checkpoints where overriding the system is normalized and not penalized. Culture shapes behavior more than training does. There's also the question of transparency. If a system is being used to make high-stakes decisions about real people, those people should be able to understand the basis of the decision and challenge it. The EU's AI Act is moving in this direction, requiring explainability for certain automated decisions. It's imperfect legislation, but it's a start. And at the systemic level, we need to stop treating algorithm failures as technical glitches and start treating them as policy failures. When a biased risk score affects thousands of sentencing decisions, that's not a bug to patch. It's a governance failure. The standard for deploying high-stakes automated systems should be much higher than it currently is. The goal isn't to distrust every tool or reject automation entirely. These systems can genuinely help. They can process data faster than any human. They can flag things we'd miss. The goal is calibrated trust. Trust the algorithm where it's been proven reliable. Override it when your judgment and evidence point elsewhere. And always know which situation you're in. Automation bias isn't going away. As AI becomes more embedded in every sector, the pressure to defer to machines will only grow. But the stakes are too high to let that happen without pushback. The algorithm doesn't know your patient, your defendant, or your candidate. It knows patterns, context. Both matter, and only you can hold both at once. If this video made you think differently about the system shaping your decisions, subscribe for more content like this every week. Drop a comment below with an example of automation bias you've encountered personally, and if you want to go deeper, links to the books mentioned are in the description. Thanks for watching.